Okay. Would you say that this genre of music has always been prominent in our city?
This genre of music, it's been around for a long time. One of the bands that I can remember first hearing about is Malevolent Creation from Buffalo slash North Tonawanda New York. Their vocalist Brett Hoffman, in my mind's eye, one of the best death metal vocalists in the country.
What are some other bands that have come out of the city that would be considered huge? Rochester, Buffalo.
So coming out of Buffalo, that are huge, of course, is Cannibal Corpse, and there's just like so many like good bands that have come out of this area, like predominantly band that you hear about a lot of the time are the Goo Goo Dolls. And the Goos, they started out relatively punk-ish, I would say, and they've gone on to do many great things.
Yeah. Would you say Undeath has made it? Is slowly making it?
Undeath from Rochester, they're very good death metal band, and they're on the rise. They've gained many a good tours. And whenever they play home, whether it be in Rochester or whether they play in Buffalo, New York, the house is always packed.
Okay. Does this landscape of where we live have an impact on your take on listening to the style of music? I don't know. Does metal? Sorry, because you're a promoter, not a band. Do you think that bands like feed off the atmosphere of Buffalo, red music?
They most certainly do. Feed off of Buffalo to right music. It's Buffalo's very cultured in many different ways. There's always something going on in Buffalo. There's always something to do, and a lot of good shows going through Buffalo, and a lot of bands gain influence as to where they come from, and it's just all around good city to be in.
Would you say that the music scene is like the music scene in Rochester versus Buffalo? Maybe some differences.
See, Buffalo, New York, and Rochester, they're very similar, but they are different. It's just based upon.
Sit.
All right.
Hey, sit. Okay, Rochester versus Buffalo. What are the biggest differences?
Biggest differences that I've seen in Buffalo Vice Rochester. It seems like there's a lot more going on based upon my experience in Buffalo. Like I see metal shows, I see hardcore shows, I see punk shows, noise shows, and Rochester. Rochester is a bit more like just metal hardcore
oriented, which is fine. I like going to shows in both cities. Very good people, and just all around good time.
All right. So, is there any specific venues people are events feel has massively helped keep this scene?
Venues that I would say that massively helped keep the scene alive. There used to be this basement show in Buffalo, New York called The Lair, and The Lair it gave a lot of Buffalo and Rochester bands like coming about a chance to be heard, as well as it gave like touring bands that you normally wouldn't hear about place to play and exposure.
Okay. How about describe The Lair? What was The Lair to you?
The Lair, it was a basement, and like it had a lot of like stickers and artwork drawn on the walls, and it's as I said before, like it's one of those more intimate venues. It was one of those venues where you would see things that you wouldn't see anywhere else.
Okay, now do you think that the fact that you can see things that, like for example, like Cabin on Fire, do you think that's what kind of kept you into the underground metal scene, is being able to see more things, I don't know, like obscure, like shit that most people, I go to see metal shows because I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen, like underground shows,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Whereas like a mainstream Dying Fetus show, like you can get up and leave, you know? I guess The Lair, is that what kept you supporting them?
Well, it most certainly helped. I mean, I'll support underground way more than I will support mainstream. And venues like The Lair, as you just mentioned, seeing guitar cabs lit on fire. You'll see bands that have obscure things like projected on the wall, such as a Buffalo band that used to be around called Rebel Scum, which they were more sleazy, dirty rock and roll. It's a place where you're going to see like black metal bands doing things that you're not going to see anywhere else.
Give me like a couple examples of things that happen in The Lair that people don't know about, that haven't been there.
Things that people don't know about. Well, one show that comes to mind. It was a all black metal show that originally was supposed to happen at a different venue, but we weren't exactly welcome there. And Erickson Murray, who is in various bands, such as say Ritual Sin, he said, hey, we can move the show to The Lair, right here, right now. So we elected to move it to Lair, and through social media and networking, the crowd that was initially at this venue and so much more showed up at the show, and it was just all around good atmosphere. The support was very uncanny.
Oh, okay. So for the performers, you stated like black metal bands doing stuff that you wouldn't see on stage.
Black metal bands doing things that you normally wouldn't see. Well, there's like more darker bands. There would be blood. There would be incense. That particular show that I was talking about that could move to The Lair. There's this band from Louisiana, and they had incense going so hard in their vocalist. He had a bottle of Bacardi dotted with habanero, and he was misting it on the glyphs on the floor and misting it out into the crowd. And a buddy of mine, Pat Pagan, and I, we were just like standing there, like trying to be like tough, freaking death metal dudes, and the atmosphere in the Lair with the incense and the habanero got so freaking bad that you could not stop tearing up or coughing, but that didn't it didn't discourage anybody from not staying or going to the show. the crowd held strong, and it was just an all-around good time.
Okay, describe the. You were at the Neck Beer Death Camp show, right? No. Okay, what? Give me one more story about the lair. Something similar along those lines.
One show that comes to mind, and it was the overall lineup was awesome. It was the last show for a Buffalo grindcore band that had been around since '91 called Avulsion, and buddy of mine Roger DePiero, he was hanging out with Danny Lilliker, Brutal Truth, and it's like don't see Danny that often, but to bring out something like somebody like Danny Lilliker, it was just awesome. And they were standing there having a good time, and they were just like iron lunging it back and forth, and it's good good to see people that have been around the scene since its very inception still come out and go to shows and perform shows.
Okay. The last one is off of mine. Give me a really memorable story about Brian from Anthropic. I guess I want you to state like why he was such a big part of the metal scene.
Well, Brian Pattison, he did a lot of photography, for shows, back in the day, and a number of years later, he started promoting shows, and he would bring a lot of those bands just like myself that you just don't hear about. He brought a lot of bands that have been around that are iconic to underground metal, and he also co-wrote a zine called Glorious Times, and that was also his company. Brian, he was my mentor as far as show promoting, along with the help of Erickson Murray. And he told me when I first started thinking about promoting shows and starting Coming of Rage Productions, he's like, you might want to be a little bit careful, Jeff. He's like, you keep going with this thing, it's going to become your new drug. And he was absolutely right. I mean, he saw must have saw something in me that nobody else saw. And so we were very close knit. He was also founded a grind band in Buffalo, New York called Anthropic, and they played many great shows. They opened up for Dying Fetus. They opened up for Cannibal Corpse and many other bands. And even though he's no longer with us, his presence is still strongly felt. And Anthropic continues to strive and thrive and go on. He's a very near and dear friend, and I truly miss him.
I'm glad that we got that.
Yeah.
Who else is passed away that's been in the scene?
Tony Lorenzo.
Right, let's bring up Tony, and let's bring up
Should we just bring them into a lecture?
keyboard player that just passed away. What's his fucking name?
James Hollenbeck.
Yeah, James. Okay. What do you think is Slipknot?
Oh.